as the other parts of the zone were criticised from that very point of view. Yeah, but we don't know. You can't, unfortunately, you can't second guess planners, or you can't second guess what a building's going to be used for.
Well, they did say it was non-habitable
Yeah.
in the application, so it satisfied me on that concern.
Okay.
That's in the
Thank you. Is there a proposer then?
No.
John, David?
No observations.
Okay, that we pass this on no observations, which we are allowed to. Okay, all those in favour? Thank you, that's lovely. Last one is 0010, which is change of use from agricultural to equestrian to include the erection of stable building, hard standing, north of Crooked Lane. Have you all had a look at this? The planning documents are pretty poor, to be honest with you. Dreadful. In fact, I'm surprised that SDC have accepted them as a legitimate planning application. Sorry?
I think I might have done better.
Yeah. I don't know what our position is on this, whether we can refuse it on the basis that there's not enough
I
data.
don't reckon so, because they've accepted and they've looked at them and published them, so they've thrown it out and said do better.
Yeah.
So as much as it's rubbish,
Yeah.
it's come to us.
So like they did with my tree first. But okay, well, essentially it is a stable, concrete yard, hay room, tack room, and hard standing for parking, and a concrete base for collecting rubbish, for want of a better word. There are elevations. It's going to be maximum height. Maximum height it would be 10'6" by the look of it. Length 38 feet, which you've been given. And there's the plan that she's drawn. Any observations on that?
No.
Any questions on it?
Not on the actual plan, but I would like to say I know the area very well. It's certainly going to add to traffic generation down that road. It is a road used by cyclists, children, people coming to and from Burnham and Brent Knoll, and it certainly is going to add, however insignificant how many people use it, but it would certainly add to traffic on what is a common road. A very special spot for walking and people who can never.
So, I agree. It's already pretty well used.
Yeah.
Okay. Is everybody happy with that? Do I have a proposer or proposition? I would propose that we accept this planning application on the grounds that it provides an amenity for a hobby or whatever you'd like to call it. I suppose so.
Is that a valid planning reason? Provides an amenity.
Or just put it through with no observations then.
Well, that's what I'd be tempted, because there's similar down lane, there's stables.
Okay.
It's not out of character, is
You're
it?
going to propose that?
Okay. No
Seconder?
observations.
John, all those in favour? Great. Can you get Bob back, please?
I will.
Not so glad the sun when he stood there. It's not fun in the winter though.
Well done, and thanks very much for your input.
It's asking.
It's not meant to be a have you done it, but it's great when people have read them and had a look at them. Thank you.
Not so bad in the sun. It's not so good in the winter though. When he stood there.
Okay, footpaths. Now we haven't got a footpath committee yet, but has anybody got any points they want to take up on footpaths? John?
So I circulated 2 sets of photography from my travels around up on the hill. Had a very interesting dalliance with livestock. All joking aside, we obviously were lucky enough not to be anything, but it's in all seriousness. There are lots of animals up there, and it's something that people need to be aware that it's an issue. So I've circulated photos. I will on my walks always take pictures of anything I think that's valid and send them around to the group. It's been well documented, of course. These parts have been well used, and for all sorts of reasons we went up to watch the air show up there. They was very busy with the air show at Western, people watching the air show, which we get a great view. We've gone out a few times, but yeah, I'll just have to circulate pictures. The fence, obviously, one bit has been repaired, and then the other bit on the corner near the church was in tatters, which is the second picture I took, which again, an animal could quite easily escape there, and with children, elderly people, etc., and people that are walking out all the time, so they may not know the area quite so well. So that's my observations from the last month or so.
Okay, taking up that point, last time, at our last meeting, we discussed the necessity to repair the post and rail fence that goes up the knoll. And I met with someone who was recommended, Steve Pym, who has all the necessary equipment to bash posts in with a special machine that he's got. So I met Stephen and we walked the path up and down, and we counted that we needed 50 metres of, on the handrail we need 28 new handrails, because the handrails are either broken, they're splintered, or they're rotting. And the best thing to do is do the whole job at the same time and get it right. We need 36 new posts, and we need 8 posts, existing posts that were done roughly 2 years ago, I think. They need to be taken out and re-bedded because they're not secure enough. And the cost of doing that, Stephen has quoted £996, which for all that work is a pretty decent price. At the same time, I asked Stephen to price for putting the fence right. There's roughly 40 metres of fence. As you go at the top gate and you walk right to the first corner, there's roughly 40 metres of fencing that needs replacing to make it secure. And as John has pointed out in his photograph, right at the top by the gate, there's a right angle where the strainer post has come out, and the fencing, there's roughly 10 metres that needs doing there. He's quoted £866 to do all that work. I saw Mike Diamond's wife this morning, because I thanked her for her efforts on getting the car park sorted out. And I said that I was going to look at this for her, and they are happy to pay for that work to be done. So if I can get that done and agreed, then I'd be delighted. If not, we may have to consider some alternative action in order to provide some security, as John's pointed out, on that footpath, particularly in the summer months when children are going to be on holiday and they're going to be walking up and down. There are no cattle in that field at the moment, for obvious reasons, but and it needs mowing, which may well happen, I don't know. But what I would like to do is give Stephen an order. He won't do the fencing immediately, or the post and rail fence, because he is very busy and he will have to fit it in, but he reckons he can do it in a day. So that's pretty good motoring. And he can gain access through Mike Diamond's farm. So what I'd like your agreement is, please can we place an order with Stephen Pin for £996?
Can I just say that that fence that was there before was actually fenced for sheep, and if you're trying to keep cattle in it, would need barbed wire as well.
I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about the post and rail fence.
Oh, the handrail.
The handrail.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, we'll do it that way. Are you happy that we place an order with Stephen Pin for £996 to replace the post and handrail fence going on? Thank you, that's great. As regards the fence, what comment did you want to make on the fence?
Well, it was only because obviously that was originally fenced for sheep, so it was like there was a plain wire and then the squares, you know, sheep fencing with posts. Well, of course, when you've got bigger animals in there, they've just leaned on it. So normally if you're fencing for cattle, you have a strand of barbed wire and then they're less keen, they don't lean on it and they don't push it over. So I think what had happened is when the cattle had gone in there, they'd leaned on it because there was nothing to deter them, because it was just plain wire, and then it had just gone over. That coupled with people pushing it down and getting over it during COVID and the footfall that you know was up and down the knoll at that time. But obviously if you're going to do it properly for cattle, you do need barbed wire as well. And although there aren't cattle in there at the moment, it's if you don't want to spend all that money on the handrail and everything and then find that it's flat again.
I think one of the problems, Amanda, with that is the public going up and down that. There is no protective handrail on that section, and if there were to be a fall through that fence, they'd fall on barbed wire. He did have an electric fence. He did put one in, didn't he? When he had cattle in there. But I think we've just got to say, please don't put cattle in there. Normally he'd have sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think
The cattle just walk over the top when you watch them. They don't worry, even where the fence is good, they just trot over the...
Yeah.
It's only 4 foot high, so
Yeah.
they just just get in the footpath. They're not deterred by it.
Yeah. So what do you think? We just try and ask them to replace light with light, which I've asked them to do?
Do that in the short term, because the only other solution is put a rail all the way down, but that's going to be costly. But ultimately it might come to that one day, because the footfall on the knoll. But it depends what they want to do with the ground. I mean, we can't tell them specifically don't put cattle in there, because at the end of the day it's a footpath and they can do what they like. They can graze the footpath if they want. They don't have to keep the animals off it. It's a bit of a nightmare, because obviously it did work really well, and it's got to the stage now that it's just a mess and it's been flattened, and it gets worse the more animals are in there. Even the sheep now, they just jump over the top when they've been there. But it'd be worth asking them what they're thinking, or sort of
Yes, I need
suggestions, I suppose.
Yeah, by the sound of it, when I see her, I need to say, look, if you do it, you just need to make sure that you don't put cattle in there, or indeed horses, but that they keep those in the far field generally, don't they?
There have been horses in there.
Yeah, they have.
And they're the same, obviously. They just walk over. They don't worry that there's a 4 foot high fence. They just step over it.
Yeah. Well, do you accept though that we need to get something done?
Definitely.
Because to stop John's.
We've got to do something. I'll try.
Okay. Well, let me take it up with them, and I'll report back as to where I've got to with them. But at least she did offer to pay, which I thought was very good. Okay. Yes.
I wouldn't raise it with the landowner at the moment, but they do have a responsibility to the walkers on the footpaths as well. So if they don't put structural fences in, then they're taking that risk themselves.
Yeah.
It doesn't fall on us. So, but I wouldn't raise it with them at the moment, because it's just.
I tend to tread it delicately. Yeah. Okay.
Just saying, one other thing, just observation, is it saying maybe we put some signage, some very basic signage up there, just to warn people that this, I didn't realise this, that they could, it's an obvious thing, but was can graze the path.
Yeah.
So they're entitled to be
Yeah.
there technically. Is
Because once they complained there was no fence there,
Yeah.
so they just walk up and amongst the animals.
just whether some basic signage just for warn people
Yeah,
that
it's a
aren't
good
from the
idea.
area and aren't expecting something. That's a suggestion.
If we put signs up, does that assume that we have responsibility?
That's
Yes.
the slight danger.
I'll leave
As
that.
long as you don't put our name on
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beware. Okay, I'll speak to Mike Downey's wife and I'll report back on the whole thing and then we can make a proper decision. Okay. Can I do the other footpaths and
Yeah.
do all that in one
it. Yeah,
go?
we might go.
Okay. I'm sorry I'm going on a bit, but we could perhaps achieve one thing all at the same time here. The car park at the top of Hill Lane, if you remember, that Mike Diamond sold us for £1 and we paid all his costs, has now been, if you like, formally signed by the other side now, and it's now in our ownership. That means this time of the year we could get on and do that work. This happened in the last council year. I said if Kenny Gordon's going to do that car park for us at the top, then I would suggest we do 3 outstanding jobs, which are all important jobs. In other words, if you do the car park, you're going to do these 3 other jobs for us, and then we've hit all the 3 jobs that need doing. The other 3 jobs are on the footpath that leads down to Bodies Lane and along the Reen. Tracy will know this and so will Amanda. The first gate you come to has a huge rise and fall through the pedestrian gate. So what I've asked him to do is to resurface that, bring the surface up so it's manageable to pass safely. That's one area. The next area is the gate that's further on, which I refer to as Sally Wingate's gate. And the pedestrian part of the gate, again, is really awkward to get over, and in the winter it's a nightmare because all that area becomes mud, total mud. So what I've asked him to do is to put some barriers on the bank. Can't quite describe it, but there's the footpath and the bank literally falls there. So we put some boarding there, some thick boarding, and then the whole area is hardcored and tamped down to stop it getting wet and to give proper passage. Okay. The next area is, again, I think it's a Sally Wingate gate further on, but
Yeah,
on the right. Yeah, where it goes over the ring. For those that walk that area, that's also an exceedingly bad area. So again, I've asked him to board it and hardcore it all across there so that access is made more friendly. Okay, so those 3 areas are going to be done, all parts of the work. So we hit things. These jobs have been hanging around for years.
2 years at least.
Yeah, 2 years at least. And now's the time to get it done. Kenny Gordon has quoted. Well, I think, did we agree the price for the car park anyway? Yeah. So the additional work for all the work on the 3 items is £902, which I would like to suggest is a reasonable price, and we issue an order to Kenny Gordon to do the car park and then those 3 areas all together, and hopefully we will achieve a milestone in our footpath.
Happy to second that. And also, just again for the new members, as the chairman said, this is something that was talked about by the previous council. We did go out for quotes a long time ago, didn't we, to get competitive tendering look at. So it's not just that we've gone to one person because we just fancy going to them. They did compete to get the job.
So is Bob's proposed that? Do I have a seconder for that? Melina, all those in favour? That's brilliant, thank you. Just by way of interest, the path that goes across the horse field that gets muddy, he had a look at that and he couldn't do that because the fence had gone in like that. And he said, I can't get a digger down there, we'd have to take the fence out. Well, I'm not going to take the fence out, it's too expensive. So we're just going to have to live with that for the time being, I think. So, thank you, that's great. Those are the quotes.
Can I have those?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Can I have that piece of paper a sec?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no more.
I'm sorry I'm talking too much. Okay, where have we got to?
Right,
Highways.
I've not been approached at all by anybody, and I have nothing to report myself.
Okay, they're doing Hill Lane today. Yeah, at long last. Yeah.
They've done some bits down Brent Street outside John Harper's, but I don't think it's a very good job. Because if you drive over it, you'll find that you're actually bumped down and back up. Whether it's finished or not, it just doesn't seem level with the road.
Malcolm and Jane, do you want to have a look at that between you?
Outside John
Yeah, they've done about 3 patches
Yeah.
by the hairdressers and outside John's, and whether they have finished it or not, it looks like they have,
Yeah.
but it just seems like it's sunk there.
And then walk up Hill Lane afterwards and do some exercise. Okay.
Can I just ask?
Yes, Jane.
Who's responsible? You know when you walk up Brent Street and you come to the cider place
Yes.
on the corner, and then there's Station Road.
Yes.
As a pedestrian or a car driver, trying to see left, it's all overgrown and everything. I don't. The part of the field, there's a little field next to the green.
Do we know whose that is?
Yeah, we've asked John Harris in the past to clear it back so we
It
can
is
see.
blind. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't see. You have to,
No.
and then you've got to watch the others come in.
There's, if we could, because there's John Harris on one side, which is the field, but on the other side, as you're coming from Station Road into Burton Road, there is the what used to be the bungalow, now a little cottage, which has a hedge that goes right round that corner.
Okay.
Yes.
Again, it would not do any harm if they could just take that back a few inches, because your visibility as you're trying to see to go right into Brent
Yeah.
Street, you have to stick your nose into the wrong side of the traffic.
Mm.
Right.
And it's just it's grown out over the width of their wall.
Yes.
They can just trim it back a bit.
Yeah.
Make
Are
a
you
huge
suggesting
difference.
some letters or?
I think it would probably be the nicest way to do it.
Yeah,
Just a friendly
I'll
note
give
to
it a
start
thought.
with.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, got that.
Thanks.
One other thing actually I want to raise. Battleborough Lane, there's an outstanding issue with regard to a pothole outside Hill House. I don't know whether anybody's noticed it. Quite a severe one apparently. In fact, Bella actually sent us a picture a while back. I don't know whether it's been done or not. Hasn't. No.
Okay.
So that's something which I guess I need to speak to Highways.
Okay.
Private, isn't it? Private. Is it private?
It is
No.
but I mean, if you're happy, I can report it through the little
Okay.
report system,
Okay.
so I'll follow that one up.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you.
Could I just ring, I think
Yeah,
Owen's
sure.
got, I don't know whether you were going from our surgery bit, there was some stuff about hedges along Station Road,
Station Road,
which
yes.
is sort of pavements
Yes,
and
yes.
highways.
Opposite South Bank Close.
That's it. That's the one. It's where the 4 houses are pushed back. I think they were built about 30 years ago, I think. The hedge along the front there has been a problem over a number of years. And when I wrote to them last time, one of the residents who lived there simply came back with a load of other problems that were somewhere else. And so if you do those, they're more important than our hedge. That's all we got.
I was going to put that. I live in Station Road and there are got several others that could benefit from a letter without naming any names. If you're going to help, I'll happily give you a list of my suggestions. It's not me, but I've got my name.
It's recorded.
Yeah, it's definitely not me. I've got all my name.
Yeah, he's
here.
Okay.
I think maybe just something, well, you know, perhaps an item again about hedges generally, reminding people about their duties.
The next one won't be till September though.
Right, okay.
If you've sent the right letters in the past, I think that's
Bird nesting will be over.
I'll just cut and paste the letters.
cut and paste the letters.
You send them
Yeah,
again.
polite letters.
Okay.
Any more on highways, anybody? Okay, thank you. Village Green. you did
Well,
the report.
Jane actually had a go at the Village Green.
I did.
Um,
And I didn't know whether I was supposed to answer on that format.
No, that's okay. I mean, I've noted what you found. Mostly it was to do with the toilet block, actually, wasn't it? That was the problem that was existing at the time.
Yeah,
And of course, we just had a repair done there.
yeah, on the gents, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
And
And then the
then a few
ladies
weeks
went
later,
wrong.
it started again. So we've locked one up permanently now.
Yeah.
One of the cubicles. So actually, until we decide what we're going to do with the toilet block,
Yeah.
there's no point in keeping having the plumber out at 80 quid a time. So that's what we've done about that at the moment. Big drainage issues there needed if we ever kept the toilet.
So Aquablast wouldn't work, say Aquablast. No, it's further.
They reported to us the issues and we got it on file with a report, but there's not much they can do actually at the moment. Needs a complete dig up and
So no other properties are being affected
No.
by this blockage?
No. Just
Just
that
treat
toilet
the
block.
toilet block.
Just
So, you know, we've addressed it,
Yeah.
we've closed it off,
yeah,
only one of them being used now. So until we decide on the toilet, on the community shop, then I think that's the way it should remain, I guess.
well, there's not a lot of cleaning goes on in that toilet block.
So I gather, they come twice a week.
No, well, I don't think they're actually cleaning it, I think they just wander out the wet mop.
And if they're not doing a good job, then we should
They
report it
used
down
to.
Hemmings. Sedgemoor.
They used to do a good job.
Not now.
Shall I have a word with Dan Hemmings and perhaps suggest that maybe somebody meets from there to find out what they actually do?
I mean, on a Wednesday morning I'm in the shop and we have observed the man come in his van with his bucket and his mop. And I've watched him, he goes in and like 2 minutes later he's out and he's off away in his van and I go and have a look and he's slopped the mop around.
So it's all high tech then, really?
Yeah. Doesn't actually clean everything.
Well, I think we need to take that one, frankly. I think we do. Because although we use Sedgemoor, we don't have to use Sedgemoor, we can use somebody else if they're not doing...
Well, there's a very nice couple who clean the parish hall because I spoke to them and they said, no, it's not our job to clean the toilets, that's
Did they do it properly?
I'm sure they would quote.
Yeah, yes, if they were paid.
So you go to the school?
Yes.
Super.
Maybe next year, perhaps. I mean, it's difficult halfway through a year because we've got a contract with Sedgemoor for a year. So we'd have a bit of a problem. But I can still take it up with Sedgemoor. Ask them if they can just pay a little bit more attention to
Well, actually clean it.
give us a better impression of what they're doing. But there was nothing else on your report really of particular note, was there?
No, it was just that bench out there,
Yeah.
those 2 bits of wood, well, not wood, whatever they
Yeah.
are, shrubs.
Yeah.
Everything else was fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which, when you say bench, is that old picnic bench?
This one here, around the
One round
Needs gashing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It needs getting rid of, really. It was dumped there, I think.
But it's only got 2.
Or donated. Donated by a former councillor. Yeah, perhaps give it back.
And Colin is on the green next month.
Am I? Oh, right.
Or this month, July.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there a book or form there?
No, there's a template actually, which I'll send you. You should have a copy of it actually, but I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Can I ask permission, if it's possible, to move the sign that as you go into the green that tells people not to have dogs and bicycles and all that sort of stuff? Because at the moment, where it was on the front fence, it's behind the shop,
Yeah.
so nobody sees it anymore. Whereas if we moved it onto a bit behind, they'd see it at least as they walk through. So if you're, I'm happy to get it sorted,
Yeah.
as long as you're happy
That's
to
good,
include
isn't
it.
Yeah.
Everybody happy with that? Just
Yeah.
recite it?
Yeah.
You're doing it, okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Play area
Play area
report.
Well, I sent a report out from GB Sports this week.
Yeah.
They actually got it to us on time this time, which is quite nice. I'm sure you read it and page to page, read every little piece of detail in it. There was nothing specifically there that was new, as far as I could tell. But it's worth reading every month, because one of these months they're going to come up with something really, really pressing, and we missed it. You know, so I think we do need to read it when they send it. I do try to cast my eye over it if I possibly can. Yeah. Yeah, so we're on to Chairman now.
Yeah, can I do my bit now?
Yeah.
Do you mind? Okay. About 10 days ago, we had a meeting with Nichols Facilities Management that does our speed devices that you can see through the village, you know, the indicators, the Evolus units. And what he demonstrated was a piece of equipment manufactured by a company called Wesco, who also manufacture speed indicator devices. But this piece of equipment was an automated or automatic number plate recognition piece of kit. In other words, it takes a picture of the car, it takes a picture of the number plate, and it records their speed. And it is, if you like, accepted by the police that this is a useful, recognised piece of kit. The beauty about it is not to catch everybody, we thought, but to catch the speeders early in the morning, late at night, or possibly between 8 and 9, when people tend to, that if you look at our speed reports that we get, they are produced online on the Brent Knoll website, so you'll see them. They are uploaded by Owen, but you'll see that there are huge discrepancies. There's an average, but huge discrepancies. And the idea is to target the huge discrepancies. So we're not targeting everybody, it's just huge discrepancies. And we've got, at the moment, we've got 4 positions in Brent Knoll, and I got to talking, and perhaps you might jump in a minute, with the guy from East Brent, because this piece of kit costs about £4,000. There are grants available from the police, which Stuart has given me the form. Do you remember when we got our speed gun last time? We made an application to the police and we got some money to buy a speed gun. And there's no reason why we couldn't do the same again. But East Brent have similar problems, and the idea is not to leave this piece of kit in the same position, because drivers will just become used to it, but to move it around on an indiscriminate basis. So it might be in Brent Knoll one week, it may be in East Brent the next, it might be on Ham Road the next, it might be Station Road, it could be anywhere within that. And it could well be that we maybe join Limpsham, so we circulate the area, so drivers never know where it is. Now I suggested it to the guy at East Brent. Were you at the East Brent meeting? Ah.
Sorry.
Right.
Stream this time, so.
Okay. Jane, you expressed an interest in, or interest in speed last time. I wonder whether we ought to get involved with the speed group down in Burton Row and the speed group down in Ham Road and have a meeting with them and say, look, we've got this piece of kit.
That's Time Cottage, isn't it? In Time Cottage,
Yes.
they're the sweet ones.
Yes. Yeah. It's not a retrospective application.
Yeah.
Is it your wish that we follow this up with East Brent, follow it up with maybe looking at grant claims, and follow it up with our local speed watch to see what they think about it? I just think it would send a message out that the idea is, Bob, that you've got our Evolis unit there, and if you're approaching the Evolis unit, if you are still speeding past the Evolis unit, it gets you there. So you've been warned. Okay? So there's no excuse. The Evolis unit is first, speed camera afterwards.
While it takes your registration number, does that mean that you will get a letter through the post or anything, or is it just
Oh yes.
data?
Oh yeah. No. This is serious collecting and reporting. Yeah.
And it does get
Not
tractors.
prosecution.
But not prosecution.
And it gets tractors.
It gets
You won't get a
tractors.
tractor to go over 30 miles an hour.
You haven't seen them come down roads faster than 30
it's
miles
data.
an hour.
They can't
David's
physically
driving.
go any faster. They
Yeah.
can't physically go any faster.
They're 50 kilometres an hour, but it's always, it goes past you, it's so big. That's why you
It's
think
always
that's
like
really
it's
fast.
They will
But
definitely go faster.
They're honestly
I
not,
would
they
think
can't.
it's
We've had this
extremely
say.
unlikely.
John, you asked.
So just to clarify that, it's not prosecution, this is
I'm
advisory.
No, I'm unsure at the moment if the way I read it, what Wesco, if they've got your number and they've got your car and they've got your excess speeding, they will take appropriate action. Whether it's a letter, whether it's a visit, whether it's a summons, I have no idea at the moment. But we're asking
I'm interested to see that clarified as to what that
Yeah,
is.
of course,
This,
of course.
yeah, absolutely.
This is early days.
Absolutely,
Early
I was
days.
sort of
Yeah.
in a warning person.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I've had a warning from the speed group in Pig Time Cottage. Yeah, I should have. It's retrospective. I'd already speeded. Yeah. Right. Okay. Enough. I'll follow that up and report back but I do think it's an interesting development.
I'll work with Jim and his friends as well, see if they can let me have a copy of the minutes.
Yeah.
So
If they've discussed it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Enough from me. Well, go on.
Right.
Go on then.
Now, we've got here a nice interesting bunch of files. I put together, particularly for new councillors, a set of papers, which looks a bit, a bit heavy going really, but it's not really. You've got some guidelines how the council operates, you've got code of conduct, standing orders, these are all newly adopted documents, all been done recently. Financial regulations, planning consultation, policy guidelines on planning, council meeting dates for the remainder of this year, the parish surgeries and green rota, full list of names, addresses, telephone numbers and emails, and a set of accounts. So I've done that for each of the 4 email. I haven't done one for you, David, yet. I will get one. This takes an age to actually print off on a standard home printer. It's not a commercial printer, it takes ages and ages. So I did John and Amanda's originally, and so I've got one here for Malcolm as well, because Malcolm doesn't have the benefits of an email or website. So if you could just shut them down, that'd be great. And then what I'll do is I'll update them as things change. So if we go through the year and we change code of conduct or standing orders, or whatever, I'll send you new copies. And then you can just add them to the files. Good stuff, really, isn't it? Malcolm. So, then the only other thing I wanted to just mention was, I mentioned to Sarah earlier on actually, the photograph for the website. David and Sarah will complete the set, as it were. Once we've got the nice group photograph as well from tonight, we've got a complete set of photographs, which will be the first time we've quite a lot tonight actually. So there's only Nigel missing really. And that's it on my bit. on my report. Because,
Thanks, sir.
police data is nothing anyway.
Police data, nothing. Speed watch we've dealt with, really.
Yeah, we have.
Bob, you're on.
Thank you. A couple of things to report from the county. Firstly, the local government reorganisation obviously is working its way through. Everything is being rejigged. One thing just to keep your eyes open for is the local community network, which is the new setup for, in effect, to replace the old cluster meetings. It will be a coming together of parishes and the local councillors to discuss local issues that affect a particular locality. That was due for consultation for the end of June. That has now slipped to the end of July, but they're looking to finalise the boundaries for these new local community networks by the end of this year. So it's something that we need to feed into as to where we think it's appropriate that we sit as a parish. In terms of other issues at county at the moment, we've been updated that the old clinical commissioning groups that used to set up the sort of commissioning of healthcare, they've now been replaced by what are now called integrated care boards. There are 42 of those that have been set up across the whole of the country, and the one in this area basically is coterminous with the county boundary, which is better now in the sense that hopefully that will make it easier for the organisations to work together. Financially, the county council is in a slightly difficult position. Basically 2 months into the financial year, they're now saying that there may be a £14 million shortfall by the end of this year. I think, to be fair, it's often at this time of year that sort of figure comes out, and then the council spends the next 10 months working out how they're going to get back within budget and making sure that they tweak their finances to make that happen. This year you've got the added problem obviously of inflation, which is running away. On top of that, you've got, I think probably one of the biggest hits that's going to hit the county is that the new living wage is going up to, I think it's £11 from 9 something. That will have an impact both on the employees of the county who are currently paid at that level, but it will also have a big impact on social care because a lot of the nursing homes and those who work in social care are paid at that sort of level. So suddenly there is going to be an increase in the cost of that, which the county will have to help fund. There is still an ongoing discussion with government. As you know, government have been promising to sort out social care funding for a number of years. They're still promising, and we're waiting for that to come through with some financial help. The fear at the moment is, looking at the current inflation and this cost of earnings coming down the track, we could be looking at the end of next year at a £44 million hole in the budget. And that would be an incredibly difficult thing to try and fill. So that's something that's going to be a key feature of the new unitary authority. As you'll remember, the unitary change was supposed to save 18.5 million to spend on extra services. Well, if it does save the 18.5 million, that may well just be going in the costs that have already gone up. So we will see how that moves forward. They've also announced from the county that there is now a new arts and culture strategy that's going to be set up because they think it's important to do that. That's a £30,000 initiative that's going to come through in the next few months. So again, sort of watch this space to see if there's anything that we can feed into on that. A couple of final things I'm going to mention to do with roads. You may have noticed signs that have popped up around the village to do with horses and safety. There's been a joint bit of work done with the County Council Road Safety Team and the Horse Society. That's not just in this locality, that's across the area, so those have been well received actually so far. Hopefully they will have an effect on just reminding people they need to drive slow and wide around horses and give them that gap that they need. And the final thing was just to say that I think I'm going to be sent the complete list of grass cutting and surface dressing across the county that's been announced, came out in the last fortnight. It's about 6,000 miles of verges that are maintained by the county council. So that will be something that they are continuing to do, and about 100 areas of road are going to be surface dressed this year. As yet we haven't got the full list of that yet, but that will be coming out in due course. So it's a busy time at county. one of the fears we do have is when you've got a budget gap the size that it is at the moment, one of the budgets that will certainly get hit will be the highways budget, because it is a significant one. And other than social care, it's the biggest one out there, so we will wait and see. On the final thing from county is local community networks. Hopefully, again, Owen, you might be getting a notification of a fortnightly meeting that clerks are being invited to, and possibly chairman, to again feed into that whole process. And on the district side, just a final reminder, there's the parish council training for planning next week on the 12th. There are still some spaces, so if anyone hasn't signed up to it yet who wants to, please take this advantage of this, because this will probably be the last planning training that the Central will do. And what the new authority will do in terms of training, we don't know yet. So
we had 5 on that, so that's good.
so if you can sign up, it's worth doing. But happy to take any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Bob? Yes?
No, I should leave that.
Okay. Sorry?
I should leave it later, sorry.
Leave it for later?
Oh, yeah, no. It's
Well,
a no.
it's a parish council?
It's a no. It's a no.
Oh, right, okay. Finance.
Right, okay, the statutory payments, which is minutes of 22/38/21 on the 6th of April, carry on as usual now, because obviously the resolution was approved in April for that. And these are the statutory payments we make every month to people like GB Sports and Jason Mayer, etc. So first of all, I need just a resolution just to underline those. I think it helps to just clarify them as we go through the year, even though they have been resolved previously. So if I just have a resolution to approve that first of all.
All those in favour?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Then the variable payments we've got are plumbing solutions, which in fact it says 77.40 on the agenda. It's twice that actually, because it came twice. And it came the second time, so it's 140 whatever. Twice that anyway, 144. 80. So that's plumbing solutions. The office expenditure for this quarter, April to June, is higher than usual, simply because the huge number of printing costs we had with the elections and with the audit this year, where there was super amount of printing went on. And also we compare with last year when in fact there was no mileage cost built in, because we were doing Zoom meetings for that most of that quarter. So it appears to be higher. What I have got here, if anybody wants to see it, I'm very happy to provide you with it. It's actually a detailed breakdown of exactly how we arrive at the figures. It's all there on a spreadsheet, and if you want a copy of it, you're very welcome to have it. It identifies every piece of expenditure during that quarter. Nichols Facilities Management, this is the work on the speed indicator devices that was done from Stuart. £90, sometimes it's 60, sometimes it's 90, depending on how much he did the 3 this month. So, and then the big one there is the legal fees, which I've added to it. Did I send you an updated version with the legal fees on it? Yeah. 1824. This is the car park in Hill Lane, where we were asked to pay for the legal fees, our own legal fees for the transfer, those of Cooper and Tanner, and those of Powers. So Charles has sent us a statement. Once we pay that, he will then complete the purchase. So I need approval from you for that. So basically, we've got 77.40 times 2, 361.18, £90, and 24.70 to get a resolution to approve.
Bob?
Can I just check one other one? On my list, I've also got Steve Chick.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. I added that afterwards, didn't I? Steve Chick. Yeah, Steve Chick is the other one who did the verge, some of the verge work, didn't he?
He did the path.
Yeah, path. Yeah.
Behind the kissing gate.
£740.
Behind the church. Yeah.
Yeah. So that needs to go on there as well.
Can I have your proposal that those are paid? Bob, seconded. All those in favour? Thank you.
That's fine. Now, the other thing I need to get this time with you, because we don't have a meeting in August, I need to get authority for the chairman and all the vice chairman, Malcolm, to make payments that come in during the month of July and August, because we don't have a meeting to approve them. So I need your approval, your resolution to approve those payments, so that any that come in, I will discuss it with Malcolm, discuss it with Colin, and we will obviously make the payments during that month. So can I have your approval for that, please?
All those in favour? Thank you, that's lovely.
Thank you. Right, okay, so the other one, a resolution to approve the contract extension to Jason Mayer. Jason, of course, as you know, has been our contractor for many years, actually, probably nearly 20 years now, I think. He certainly was the contractor when I joined, and has remained so. We went through a tender 2 years ago, and Jason still came out as the best option for the council. We had five people come forward, and Jason was given the contract for a further 3 years. That 3 years runs out in 2023, and Jason came to us about 6 months ago and told us he wished us to invest in some new kit. Some of his machinery was looking a bit dated, and he wanted to buy some new kit, but he didn't want to do so unless he was going to get an extension of the 3-year contract for the council, because we are the biggest contract he has. So he's come to us now and said, look, you know, I am now spending money. Can you please tell me whether I can have the contract continued for a further 3 years from March 2023? It's unchanged in terms of price. Now, bearing in mind his price has been the same now for many years. I don't remember the last time he actually put his prices up. It's probably about 6 or 7 years since we had a price increase from Jason. So he's retained those. The contract itself would be with a annual review. So in other words, if we were not happy with Jason at the end of each year, or he didn't want to continue with us, we both reserve the right to come out of the contract on an annual basis. So although it's a 3-year contract, it does have annual reviews. So I just need to know what your comments are. Well, I sent the contract out to you, I sent a document outlining what the issue is. I just need to know from you whether you're happy to extend, whether you'd like to ask questions about it, whether you feel...
So,
On what basis was he the most competitive? Was it just in price? Or were
No.
there various metrics?
It wasn't on price.
It wasn't on
Wasn't
price,
on price.
actually.
It was
No,
on
he wasn't cheapest, actually.
Oh.
But we felt that the work he did, bearing in mind one of his biggest parts of the contract is the churchyard. The churchyard is a notoriously difficult area to cut. We've had previous tenders on it in the past, and people have come in there and they've lasted 3 months and given up. It's such a difficult area. And we do get good comments about the churchyard.
The same as questions, is he checked if there's any feedback, or is it just 3 years and it continues?
good point.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time in the past council wondering how we could monitor the work that Jason did to make sure that areas were covered on a regular basis. And we put together a, if you like, a tick sheet of the various areas that comprise his contract. And we said, please will you send us a ticked sheet telling us each month what you've actually done. I haven't seen one yet, but what I have seen is a schedule of work he's done, which came through.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what we requested.
Yeah, it's quite important, isn't it? Because it makes quite a difference. And it's all very well having a 3-year contract, but it makes a difference if everything's kept and maintained.
Absolutely, because we say do 8 cuts a year in a particular area. It may be that he does 10 cuts, or it may be in another area that he only does 3 cuts, where we say we want you to do 6. So if we know the regularity of how he cuts, then we can hone that contract down and know that it's being dealt with properly. And sorry, Sarah, go on.
Sorry, I asked the question again. On what basis was he the most competitive, did you say?
What, was he less competitive?
No, he's obviously been awarded the contract for 3 years many times over. And on what basis was he awarded it? Why was he the best?
What?
His
work.
price.
His work, I
His
think,
work.
more than anything else. We know his work.
It's not limited, it's considered to be.
Yeah. I think the other thing is, he is a resident of the village. I know
Yeah.
the sheep, but it's providing work
Yeah.
for someone in this
Yeah,
village,
no,
which is very important to us.
Yeah.
It's a good point, it's a fair point.
Yeah. Amanda?
I was just going to say that I think that in the last few months, some of it has got a little bit sloppy, and the grass road opposite the Methodist has been this high in stinging nettles and rubbish, and then it seems that when there's something like just before the Jubilee, or today, when
Today.
presumably he knew there was a parish council meeting,
Yeah.
he's out.
It's good.
Exactly. There have been occasions where, you think, is he actually doing this? And I think that a tick list would be a good idea. And where on that, I've seen the email you sent through the copy where it says verges done. That's a little bit vague. I think it needs to be that specified, and it needs tick and the date. Because like Colin said, that verge might only need doing 4 times a year. That verge might need doing 20 times a year. So you can't say verges. The other beef that quite a few people have mentioned is the churchyard, which apparently a resident has told him not to cut it at certain times because of butterflies, bees, wildflowers, whatever. And so I don't think he's kind of known who he's taking instruction from, because he's been advised not to cut parts of it.
That's the only instruction you should take.
Well, there are certainly several months where that churchyard hasn't been cut, and it's been high, and like literally the graves are overgrown, and it was said, oh no, I've been told not to cut it because of wildlife.
I've said to him several times that you only take instructions at the very least from a member of the council, but really it should come through chairman and clerk before any instructions are given. And if you don't get instructions from us, then you just carry on. You carry on as normal. And that's what we've said to him so many times. The only thing I would say, in Jason's defence, and I'm not here to defend Jason by any means, but because he's a manual contractor, they're not particularly good on things like paperwork. The idea of sending any sort of documentation to you is a kind of bit of anathema to them. They just don't, they don't work on paperwork, and that's just in his slight defence with the tick lists, and I think that may be the issue there actually.
Somebody needs to
I would say that's it. Yeah, I know Jason, I've spoken to him a number of times, I've seen those in the village, and it's not anything against him, but I noticed today, and I saw it on the agenda that a contract was out, and you came to the village and went, oh gosh, we've got a meeting tonight, so I noticed it too, and it's suddenly, it does appear, and it can make a difference between the village looking really gorgeous and attractive and the
That's
rest.
gruffy.
So I would just say my observation would be just to monitor it. It's nothing against Jason.
Well,
I just wonder, we have sort of working groups that look at the footpaths and stuff. Is it worth having a couple of members who just keep an eye and report back to us each month as to what's happening?
Yeah.
Because then at least we're monitoring it, and if we think there's a problem, then it will come to light.
Yes.
Because I think, as Owen said, there are a number of contractors around this village who do good work, but their paperwork is not great. And I think that's something that is going to be a problem. If we went back to him and said we need lots of documentation, he's never going to be able to do that. He's pretty much a one-man
That document there I took from Jason's email that he sent to me and copy and pasted it onto a Word document.
Yeah.
So it made some sense, because originally that didn't make any sense, that document. So, and I'm happy to do that. I said to him, look, you send me the information and I'll put it on a document for you.
Who decides? Do we say what is required and he does it, and have certain agreements in place, or does he tell us what's required? And then
We tell him.
There's like a specification of work that was drawn up.
Owen sent around a bit of a copy of the contract. I think it would be worthwhile for all members. There's a schedule which shows which verges in the village are due to be cut.
Yes.
So it might be worth circulating that
Yeah.
to members as well, so they know which areas we do and don't do.
But I was going to say, that might not be applicable now because we're in the mid-contract term, if you like. But I think just to, recap on what Colin said and what Sarah said, that verge isn't, say, there, is not being cut adequately, and that one may be being done when it doesn't need to be done, and it probably does make sense for several people here to say, right, that verge needs cutting, that doesn't need cutting, or that has been done, that hasn't been done, and the other thing